Good morning, Nation. John here. If you're joining me from Prepper Nation, thank you very much. And if you're just brand new around here and you're a history buff, welcome to the madness. I am not your typical history guy. I'm not your typical history teacher, I guess you could say. We're going to be studying a lot of history here on this channel. We're going to talk about some conspiracy theories, but also some historical theories and just all kinds of stuff. We're going to do some wargaming, some military strategy. But before we do any of that over here on the channel, what we first need to do is we need to understand how to study history. Because in my humble opinion, history is not being studied the proper way in our school systems, especially public school, but also some secondary education. Right now, for the most part, kids that are in school, they are, their study of history is basically memorize a name, memorize a date, put the two together when it comes test time, and that's it. And that's honestly a travesty. That is not how you study history. Right now, many of our young people, like over 50%, I believe I read, of high school age kids believe that Robert E. Lee was the president of the Confederacy when it comes to the Civil War. And that's sad. That is really sad that we have such a limited amount of historical knowledge of our own country, guys. I'm here in the United States, in case you ain't figured that out. I'm in the Deep South. So anyway, how do you study history? Again, it's not about just matching up names and dates. It should be an investigation. All right, let me give you two examples because I love analogies. You folks from Prepper Nation already know this. So we know about the atrocities that were committed by Adolf Hitler during World War II. That's one example. We know. If you know anything about history, you know what happened there. We also know what happened during the Revolutionary War with the founders like Thomas Paine, George Washington, etc., Jefferson. But we need to do more than just know what happened. The study of history should be figuring out why it happened. Why did these things happen? Why did Adolf Hitler do the things that he did? How was it even possible for that stuff to happen? How is it allowed? And so there's a lot that goes into that investigation. The main thing is getting into his head, getting into his mindset to try and understand the person involved. When you get into the Revolutionary War, and I would argue Thomas Paine really sparked things off with his pamphlets. But why? What was in it for Thomas Paine? What was his mindset at the time of writing the pamphlets? So the investigation begins, for me at least, this is how I like to do things, with studying the individuals involved. Now my emphasis is on World War II. And so how I've done this is good and bad. I've studied pretty much all the writing I can get a hold of by these individuals, right? So George Patton, for example, you got to get into his head. You got to figure out what was going through his head. Churchill, again, Hitler, Stalin. You just want to examine things from all sides, and you want to get both sides of the story. When it comes to history, you're never going to get the absolute truth, in my opinion. You're never going to get the absolute truth. All you can do is get as close as possible to the absolute truth. Because at the end of the day, there are two truths. There are two sides to every story, if you will, right? And the absolute truth is somewhere in the middle, but you're never going to find it. All you can do is put biases aside and do some investigating. So when I go into World War II, for example, D-Day. D-Day is a historical event, right? I understand what happened because of what I've learned in school. We've been told one side of the story, and there's a lot of truth to that side of the story. But I want to understand both sides of it. I want to understand what was going through the minds of the Allied commanders when they set this whole thing up. And I want to get into the minds of the German defense lines there on the beach and the hedgerows and things like that. So I've had to study, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a lot of examining on this channel on both sides. We need to, and this is important, folks, because we need to understand what was going through their heads. We need to understand the events that led to certain events. For example, and then I'll close it out for now, I always hear about the parallels between ancient Rome and the United States of America, right? There's certain things that are happening now that were happening then, and certain things that led to the fall of Rome. And if we're going to make sure the United States does not fall in the same fashion, we need to avoid those mistakes. Now, history will tell you, well, hey, you know, the barbarians at the gates, they just overtook Rome, which technically speaking is the truth. However, there are a lot of factors that went into Rome getting weak enough to be overtaken. And so the study of history is not just about learning the dates. It's not just about writing down on a test, oh yeah, the barbarians took them down, okay? It's about understanding the factors that went into Rome, which was, you know, at that time, the greatest empire on earth. How did it get fractured to a point where barbarians overtook it? That's what we're going to be talking about on this channel. And also, again, we're going to get into some conspiracy theories, all right? But hopefully, by the time we get done talking about them here on the channel, they're not going to be conspiracy theories anymore. They're just going to be conspiracies, because we're going to be dropping a lot of truth, a lot of, at the very least, circumstantial evidence. And I'm going to put it here on the channel, and I'm going to let you folks think about it, make your own minds up. And then finally, we're going to be doing wargaming. War, unfortunately, is a part of human history. It's been going on for a very long time, and it ain't going to stop anytime soon. And so wargaming is important. I know some people love wargaming. I love it. I know other people hate wargaming. They hate thinking about hypothetical situations. But these hypothetical situations could at any point in time come true. And we need to understand how things would go down. So that's wargaming. Anyway, folks, this is John from Prepper Nation. This is a backup channel for Prepper Nation as well. Google's been all over me, son. So I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate the subscribe, the thumbs up, all of the support. I truly do. Until next time, I'm going to try and update this channel twice a week with some content. We're going to be talking about the Führer bunker from World War II next. So sometime later this week, we're gonna talk about the Führer bunker and what I actually think happened in the closing days in Berlin. All right, take care and God bless.